Scott and Keith are Titterpigs, yeah. Keith and Scott are Titterpigs, oh yeah. They're gonna talk about sweet, sweet RPGs. And it's the Titterpigs, the RPG podcast. Am I getting paid for this one?
All right, listeners, welcome back. This is episode 20. Holy hell, Scott. We have made it to 20, and this is our, end-of-year roll-up episode.
Yeah, I mean, it is January 1st. It has definitely been a great year for the podcast, and like all things, as the year comes to an end, it's a time to look back and reflect on some of the highlights and the wonderful things that we have done, and discovered and did for the Titterpigs podcast.
What have we discovered?
Well, it's been an interesting year, considering the amount of podcasts that we did, the guests that we had, and even things not necessarily podcast related, but that that you and I did together over the course of 2022. But first, let's get a couple boring numerical nonsense out of the way, just for those who might be interested. So, all in all, we have done 962 minutes of content this year, believe it or not.
Holy smokes.
I know. And that's not counting our little live chats that we've done. That's not counting our stupid little videos that we did for shits and giggles over at Gen Con, but just the podcast alone, between you and I and the guests that we've had, 962. And the word has spread. We have gone beyond our comfort zone. We are now listened to in over 11 countries. Our top
Yay!
being, oh yeah, no, I mean, and it's pretty, it's wild to see some of where, who has listened to us and in what country. I mean, of course, we have our comfort zone. We've got listeners in the United States, the UK, Canada, Australia, and Sweden. And with each one of those countries, I can see the people, that we know, our friends who actually, quantify those locations. But people listen to us in India, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, Argentina. I mean, just it's crazy who's actually taking their time to listen to, two idiots prattle on about role-playing games. So
I'm kind of impressed. I really am.
It is. So, but that aside, I mean, what else do you have to add to that? I mean, there's plenty to talk about.
I mean, I can add, our special guests this year have been varied. We had guests by the likes of Ken Hite, Jason Sheets, Andy Markham, David Shertawan, and a number of our gang, our friends, have regularly popped onto the podcast for various reasons and hung out with us and, decided to chat. We actually did an actual play podcast, which was bananas.
Who would have thunk it? I mean,
I know, right?
We're not, for those who know us, we're not actual play people. There's I have no problem with people who enjoy actual plays and for people who, actually do them. But it is one of those things where, for me, and I think you might kind of fall into the same camp, is I don't mind listening to them. I don't have the time to sit down and watch them. And the idea of doing an actual play podcast just never, popped into this cranium. But it was a lot of fun. I'll have to say, it was a good time.
Oh, it was amazing. Our cast of players was great. David Shertawan is our game master running his game. Bones Deep was amazing. It went in directions I didn't think it was going to go. It was great. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please go listen to it. It's episodes 17 and 18. I take that back, 18 and 19. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
God, what else did we do, Scott? What was our like top episodes for this year?
Well, we actually have a couple and looking back, I'm not saying it's a shock, but it was a bit surprising. But our number one episode this year was our zine episode, talking about zines with Andy Markham. Even though there was a top episode here on the podcast, it was also one that we put up on our YouTube channel, which needs a little bit more love and attention. So wrap those together, and it got a lot of views. And, it's a mixture of just, the topic itself. But, I mean, Andy is, just an absolute, charismatic individual on his own. So my feeling is that episode hangs on his shoulders, and we were just, opening the gates and letting him run with it.
I had a lot of fun with that episode. That was great. I'm pleasantly surprised that that was our number one for the year.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought it would have been our alternate history with Ken Hite.
Right.
Even though that was later in the year. Ken, is a big name in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Draws a lot of folks to him in terms of listens, when he does talks, when he's at a convention. I was very surprised we were able to get him onto the show, and our conversation with him was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Where did he rack and stack?
Well, he was.
I know you looked at the numbers.
Yeah, he was number 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, and still growing, and believe it or not, even Andy's episode. So, it's definitely and both of them, like charismatic as hell in their own personal ways. And if I had to, if there was a tier for us to have our top most intimidating episodes, that would have been the one with Ken Hite.
Absolutely.
It was pleasant. He was a wonderful guest. Would love to have him back on, and he was great to talk to. But you and I both know we did a lot of prep. We didn't sit there and just drool running out of our mouths and had one of the luminaries of the hobby onto our episode, and we sure done good job to not make stupid look us.
True story. That be. Oh wow. Okay, well that's good to know that it came in number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I counted when I went back and looked at our numbers. I counted. Did we really do 15 episodes this year?
More than I.
Wow. Okay.
Even though I upload and label those episodes, those kind of things just kind of don't stick.
All right. So the official count then is from 1 January of last year to 31 December of last year. Was 15 episodes we released.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm quite impressed that we did that. That's awesome. High five to us. Whoop whoop.
I know. And,
yeah.
Which we actually, even with that output, believe it or not, we are one of the top 25 most followed podcasts. I think you and I kind of feel like we could have done more. But
yeah, I wish we could have done more, but I'm quite happy with the output.
Yeah, but even with that, it's these kind of things are really humbling, to say the least.
Absolutely.
That so many people, besides my grandma, listens to the episode. So
Shh, don't tell people that.
I know. Oh, sweetie, this is so good. No, I mean, but still. Well, I'd like to spotlight highlight for the year, and
what's that?
And that was the arrival of one Kevin to Southern California. When you were able to make your way out here and swing by for a visit, we did a live for fun Q&A streaming chat, which was great.
Sure did.
To be in side by side on the same camera, on the same mic, not having to worry about how each other's levels are because we were both the same. And
that was great.
It was a good time, and had a wonderful dinner and a fantastic chat. And it was definitely great, which was nice when we repeated that when we went to Gen Con later on too.
That was amazing. Gen Con and doing some live stuff from Gen Con, although we didn't do enough of it.
Right.
It was still fun. My work trip that allowed me to come out and visit the Orcus Dorcas studios in Southern California was fortuitous. It was well timed, and it was fantastic.
Right.
You know, I think my big highlight aside from that and Gen Con was when our friends at the Sons of the Singularity asked if we would like our likenesses in their book, which was released earlier last year or middle of last year, Between the Devil and the Deep. And that is where Scott and I got our beloved nicknames, Kevin and Steve, that keep getting slung around in episodes and in the Midchester Arms virtual pub on Friday nights and in our Discord and everything else. So if you ever wondered where those came from, it was because of a Freudian slip. We won't mention who, but it was a Freudian slip, and we were branded. Scott was branded Steve, and then I became Kevin, and it's kind of stuck. And they're not even our names, but it was great.
No,
but it was a highlight, and it was just a simple mistake that people glommed onto, and it was funny, and it was fantastic. There was no harm meant in it, and the running joke now is just meant with love. So
right, and I agree with you. I mean that, and just for the listeners, this was an unsolicited, just kind of out of left field of like, hey guys,
sure was.
Send us a couple pictures. Like, why? The turnaround was ridiculous. Almost like a couple weeks later, it's like, and here you are. You guys are NPCs in a Caribbean type pirate.
You're a tavern keeper, bartender in on an island. I am the governor of Cuba. So with this name that I can't even pronounce because it's like 17 names long. It's an amazing honor. So that was awesome. So that was my big highlight for the year.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And I always have problem with that because I always feel like, I'm secretly telling, one of my children that I love them more than the other. And so it's hard for me to nail down a highlight, but I don't know. I think for me, out of all the conversations that we had, I really, really, really enjoyed the one that we had with Levi Combs, which I believe, aside from the guys from Critical Hit Publishing, he was our second guest, and it was just the most natural, casual, fun-filled conversation. It was one of the ones that why I enjoy most when I listen to podcasts. As much as some of these kind of like high-produced, very glossy podcasts can be, and they are equally, wonderful in their own right, I tend to like the ones of just, hey, it's just a couple guys sitting around the gaming table having a chat. And the chat could be about gaming, or it could, rotate into other wonderful things. And it also, there's no hiding the fact that I am a Levi Combs and Planet X Games fanboy, but it paved the way, at least for me, to realize, we can continue to have guests on here and have these wonderful, relaxed conversations with these people that may or may not be on a pedestal, because for the most part, they're just names on a book or personalities on Twitter. But it really opened the door for us on the podcast. Like, okay, this could be a thing. He actually enjoyed our company as we enjoyed his. Let's start getting more people on here. This is kind of neat. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't want to say it opened the floodgate, but it really opened the door
for
that prospect of getting more folks. And then we started getting more folks and intermixing them into the lineup, which was great.
I'm going to add one more thing real quick. So we got Ken Hyde on, and the story.
You're going to tell the story, aren't you?
The story of how we got Ken Hyde on. So, it was one evening where, I think after we had spent some time in the Midchester Arms, which is an online kind of Zoom chat. We call it an online pub where we just kind of meet, a couple times a week to talk about games with people from all over the world. And I had a bit of rum in my system, and someone had posted something, regarding Ken Hyde, and they didn't even tag him on it. And to be perfectly honest, and this is, I think it's apparent, but apologies, to Ken if you take the wrong way, but Ken likes to be verbose, I think is a good way to say it, in both verbally and in his writing. So I made a comment of, be careful what you say because Ken is going to send you a strongly worded 45-page email. It's just, an innocent little joke, about, someone in the industry that we all know, he can definitely gab with the best of them and write with the best of them. And maybe about 5 minutes later, there was a reply to me and the person posting it from Ken Hite saying, unless I get paid, I won't even do one email, let alone a strongly worded 35-page email or something of the sorts. But it was a little bit snark thrown at me. And of course, I had pie in my face. And then I think it was either you or me just kind of rolled into, hey, Ken, while you're at it, would you like to be a guest on Titterpigs? And
I think you started that, and I just kept goading it.
Right, because I had liquid courage in me.
Yeah, I was playing off your liquid courage.
Right, which
I might have had some too.
Sure, I mean it wasn't like okay, this was kind of a funny joke. We all get how funny you think you are, but I'm going to go my merry way. It literally was, sure. Hey, just let me know a date and time and what you want to talk about, and we'll be on. Very, very gracious, very kind in that regards, and then. After it was all said and done, you and I were like, giddy little schoolgirls going, we're going to have Ken Hite on? Holy shit, what did we do? So that I think, there you go. I've got two mashed together into, the highlights for the year.
There you go. You heard it here first on Titterpigs.
Yes.
Scott's drunken story.
It won't be the last.
Nope. You think that's going to wrap it up for our look back? You want to talk about our look ahead?
Absolutely. I mean, as mentioned, this was a great 2022 for us, but, it has opened our eyes to a lot of things, and there's some things that we want to do, as far as, what the podcast is going to be, things that we would like to venture out and try and just kind of widen the range of, the Titterpigs podcast, which would be,
Hell yeah.
Which would be number one. What would be number one?
Number one, I think we want to do. I mean, I know I want to, and I think Scott will support on this. We want to get some more guests on. We talked about with Levi Combs and Andy Markham and Ken Hite being fantastic to have on the show. So yeah, we want to branch out and do more of that.
Right.
What else, Scott?
Generally speaking, output. As you said, we did 15 episodes this year.
Yep.
And we would definitely like to do more. We do this for fun. This isn't our job, and so of course life intervenes as it does. But I do feel sometimes that we could kind of push ourselves a little bit more to bring more content, because we do have a lot of stuff on the burners of topics and things we want to get to. There's no shortage of that. It's just not necessarily finding the time, but making the time. And that's definitely something I would like, for us to try to see if we can at least increase the output of episodes this year more, than what we've done this year.
Absolutely.
Or last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So with more episodes, and means more guests, more and diverse topics. As Scott said, we've got this laundry list of topics on the burner, on various back burners, just ready to go. Some will be roundtables with some special groups of special guests. Some will be just he and I chatting about very specific topics.
Yep.
One thing that I think we might want to explore some more is doing the occasional, very tightly done, very short one-shot actual plays. We've actually gotten a lot of listens on that that one we did with David Sherdowan with Bones Deep.
Yeah.
That may be something you may hear some more of this coming year.
Would definitely love to have it as creators of the games, or at least someone who is part of the game that's being run, to get their interpretation of the game itself and just enjoy it. And also, more importantly, spread the word of the game, especially if it's a game from people we know or a game that we like, whatever the case may be. But it's interesting. It opened my eyes. Like I said, it's we're not creating musical intros, and we're not overacting, and we're not dressed up in plastic ears and and whatnot. It's literally
Thank
just
God.
I know. It's literally just a group of friends as they normally would be sitting around a game table and just playing a game. So, and besides that, another thing that Keith and I have been talking about for a while that we hopefully would like to maybe start near the end of January, depending on the case may be, is we've been considering doing a Titterpigs Patreon. And,
Yes, we have.
Yeah. And before you jump through the speakers and go, Patreon, what are we going to pay you guys for? You should be paying us, right? But, still. I mean, it still is creating this podcast it's a lot of effort, a lot of time on our parts. We have, believe it or not, put in quite a lot of, our own personal time and money to make this podcast better than what it was when we first started it. We definitely would like to broaden the horizon past just the microphones at our house. I mean, we tried that slightly at Gen Con. Would definitely like to do it again, but in more of an actual podcast capacity, and maybe see other things and whatnot. But with that, I mean, what would you say the Patreon would be providing, at least on a base level?
So I mean, we don't want to make any promises we can't deliver on. So without giving you guys specifics, all right, we've got some ideas that we're going back and forth on, and we're working out right now how many tiers we're going to have, which things we're going to do at which tiers. So, God, I don't...
Yeah. More content, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, more content. That's some of it will be very exclusive to Patreon supporters. Mm-hmm. I will say, there will be the occasional like blooper reels and things like that. Cause I mean, that's all part of the post-production process when I have to go listen to us banter and edit, there's always fun blooper stuff. Like there'll be some stuff in this that I have to chop out, that make for fun little audio sound bites and silliness. Mm-hmm. But we may, and I'm just going to say may, because I don't want to promise anything we can't deliver on.
Right.
We may do some Patreon exclusive, shorter recordings that may not be released to the general public, or that you guys would get first before they go out to the general public, things like that. We're still going back and forth on exactly how we want to approach this.
Exactly.
Because we want to make sure that you guys, as Patreon supporters of Titterpigs, get exceptional value for every dollar.
Right.
So
simply put, we're deciding on what it is that we're going to be doing. So it's more content, as Keith said. I think I said also. But also with that would bring more engagement in one way or another. I think that's what every Patreon does and should do. So yeah, there's that. There's definitely, that's another thing that, we are looking forward to and want to definitely roll out at some point in early 2023.
And we hope to have everybody's support. So at some level or another, as a fan of Titterpigs. Speaking of engagement, the last thing I would like to highlight, it's not new for 2023 because we started it in 2022, but we haven't really mentioned it on the show, so I just want to kind of like end this segment of the show with it. Mm-hmm. We have a Titterpigs portion on a Discord, on my Rolling Boxcars blog Discord. There is a Titterpigs area. Mm-hmm. And everybody is welcome to invade it. Come hang out. Be part of the Titterpigs discourse.
Yes.
Be part of the Rolling Boxcars ditter course. See,
Edit.
That's a blooper thing. But just be part of the conversation and, interact with other listeners, other readers of the blog, broaden your social media horizons. Mm-hmm. It's just fantastic. It's fun. And it's a group of like-minded individuals that want to engage with other people that are like-minded.
Right. Yeah. If there was definitely one more thing that I would look forward to in 2023 is more engagement. I would
Absolutely.
love more feedback, more input, just more general engagement. And I think with that, before you wrap it in a nice neat bow, Keith, is, speaking of engagement, how about you, listeners? Is there anything that you would like to suggest, see or hear from us, Titterpigs, in 2023? If you do, hop onto the Discord. Let us know. We have a special area of the forum for just that. Or, as we always say, drop us an email at titterpigspod@gmail.com. Whether it be a written email or a voice clip, send us your opinions, send us your suggestions, send us your feedback. We have thick skins, and we are, on top of that, we are always open to new ideas and suggestions.
Hell yeah. So with that, let's roll over to the next segment where we're going to hang out with a couple of our friends from the UK. We're going to talk about our most favorite game of 2022 and our most anticipated game of 2023.
Woo. All right. Welcome back to our next segment. We have with us today friends of the podcast, Pookie and Debbie, to speak with both Keith and I about our most anticipated games of 2023. But before that, we are also going to go over our favorite games of 2022. Each one of us has picked one per year, and we are going to go down the list as we talk about our favorite game of 2022 first, and then after that we will each talk about and divulge our most anticipated game of 2023. Welcome, Debbie, and welcome, Pookie.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
All right. So,
Hi.
Oh yeah, and also the other guy, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin's here, reporting in for duty, sir.
Yes, we've made it through another year, and we haven't replaced Kevin or Steve yet, so we're still the original Titterpigs. So let's just go ahead and just dive right into this. What we'll start with, as mentioned before, is our favorite game of 2022. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with Kevin. I mean Keith, and then after that we'll move on to Debbie. Then we will do Pookie, and then we will do myself.
All right. Well, yeah.
And
so
I'm just saying, sorry to interrupt. Make it good, because we will talk about it afterwards and make fun of you. So,
oh, that's fine. I'm used to it.
That's
I'm
why
used to this podcast, remember? All right. So my favorite game of 2022, hands down, has been Pirate Borg. I have read the game. I have reviewed the game on my personal blog, Rolling Boxcars. I have played it, and I have started running it. It is fantastic. For those that are not in the know, it is a Mork Borg compatible or Mork Borg derivative game. It is everything you want in a pirate game with a dark theme. The Dark Caribbean is the setting, and it is fantastic. It's not over the top dark as, say, Mork Borg is, but it's just got enough in the dark tone of it to put it on the weird side of things, with ghost ships and creatures of the deep and skeletons and, buried treasures and all the things you want in a pirate game. And it's absolutely fantastic. Not to mention, it's got a tactical naval portion of the game that is built in from the ground up, not a bolted on supplemental piece. The original Kickstarter pitch, and knowing what I know of the original game design, if you play it at the table with the hex grid, it's built for or designed to use 1/600 scale miniatures like oak and iron and any other similar type miniatures that you can find out there. So it's you can go into 3-dimension. You can transition from a role-playing game to a miniatures game back to a role-playing game. It's just fantastic. I love it. That is my 2022 pick.
And I think we can both Debbie and I, who have played in the your first session, could definitely back that up. We had such a fantastic time playing that, and like one thing I'll just add to it briefly is yes, it is Mork Borg. It does carry the similar dark tone, but there's plenty of room for pirate themed humor to be interjected within the game. And for those of you also, I just want to add one more thing. For those of you who tend to steer away from Morkborg, this particular book, its presentation and it's in itself seems to be a bit more traditional. So if you had an issue with some of the aesthetic integrity taken within a lot of the Morkborg stuff that makes it hard to read, Pirate Borg can definitely solve that issue because it's a lot easier to, with its formatting to read, and therefore you can get your Morkborg on and not go cross-eyed trying to read it. So
absolutely. So to that, the designer has gone to the extent in his layout to, even though it doesn't have the art punk aesthetic that Morkborg does, he does have some of the, kind of the funky scripting fonts. So when you're looking for something, if you can't make out the actual fonted header, it's in clear text at the top. So that makes it super easy.
Yeah, I just like to add that it's got a really beautiful character generator as well. And when we played that, the stuff that comes up on the character generator really gives you stuff to lead into role play. I just got completely lost in it.
Yes, you did.
Same here. Yar. All right, fantastic. Yes,
I'd like to add that I haven't played Pirate Borg yet, and I'm disappointed.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, well, okay. So moving on to number 2, we have Debbie. Debbie, what was your favorite game that came out in 2022?
For anybody that knows me, it's probably absolutely no surprise about this, but it's Bones Deep by David Sheridan. I probably said his name wrong. Sorry, David. It's a system agnostic game, but it was designed to be played with Troika, which is an absolutely bonkers rule set, but quite simple, which leads to a lot of fun at the table. The depth of characterization in the setting is just wonderful. You're playing pirates. No, you're not playing pirates. That's Pirate Book. You're playing skeletons exploring the ocean floor, and it's just utterly wonderful. I have had so much fun taking that game to the table, and the amount of table bling it's allowed me to buy, which I don't normally bother with, but I have bought so many little shark toys. It's unbelievable. It's just wonderful. There's so much fun to be had in that game. It is a brilliant game, and I've not had a bad game of it. I've run it at several conventions now, and it's always gone down really, really well. Yeah,
no, the game we played in with David was fantastic, and I believe for me it's one of those games that I've read through it. It was gifted to some of us by Keith at Gen Con. And going through it, it's kind of one of those games where just reading it, you're like, is this going to work? But when it was actually run by David, and like Debbie said, you definitely can easily get into the character, and it turned out it was a lot of fun, and it definitely works. Pookie, did you have something?
Yeah. I mean, I've not played it, but I have sort of like read it and done a review of it, and what I love about it is the thought and attention to detail that goes into making the undersea realm real just through the mechanics. Like, for example, the teleport spell. You cast teleport under the water, it leaves a space where you've been, which causes like an implosion. And when you arrive at your destination, because of the compression, you're kind of moved away, and it's just a fantastic little kind of flavor to it. The idea that you're playing skeletons who can't float, and you can cast like an air bubble spell, which you can either drown an opponent with it because they're water breathers, or it will bring you to the surface. It's the flavor and detail of it that comes through. Yeah. It's wet, it's wonderful, and it's weird.
Yeah, and that teleport spell was used to beautifully comic effect in the first game of it that I ran. It was just hilarious.
Moving on. Next up, we have Pookie. And I'm sorry, this is starting into games of 2022 that we played where Pookie didn't. So maybe we can change that here.
Unfortunately, I'm going to pick something I haven't played, but really want another one. And this is the Electrum Archive by Emil Boven. And kind of describe it as a weird, inky, baroque planetary romance. And it's a little fanzine, 60 pages, and that's the first part, which describes this world, which is kind of like the standard setup where you have the human civilization being transplanted to a planet by the elders, the alien race, and then disappearing. And then some time passes, and the humans begin to explore. And what's really weird about it is that there's the currency in the world is elder ink. You know, you buy things with it and so on. The warlock character inhales, be able to access the spirit realms or the other realm, contact spell spirits and gain spells. And the spells in it are all random. They're like, noun form noun, and you roll randomly for what they are. So one warlock will have different spells from another, and how they work is up to you. And also the elder ink is used to power the technology of the elders and so on. And there's no scenario in the book, but it's got sort of like 6 different regions with lots of plot hooks, lots of events, and it's designed to be sort of like OSR adjacent. So it's OSR style kind of rules, but simpler. It's not a retro clone, but the world is sort of like inspired by Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, and then Elder Scrolls, Morrowind, and so on, and things like that. But it's got its own character and feel, and it's such a lot of game and world building in there in just 60 pages, and it's fantastic.
Looks widely popular, because the other day when you mentioned it, I went to most of the typical sources to see if you can find it, and it's sold out everywhere, not just in the States, not just in the UK, but in other European website venues, and even Germany. I mean, all of the sites have, everyone snatched it up. So hopefully that, tells you that, people have heard about it and figured, this is something good, and they've grabbed it. So
yeah, there's going to be a Kickstarter for the second volume next year now. So hopefully it may well do a reprint of the first part.
Right.
I definitely think this is the sort of thing that you will like.
Yeah, no, the cover itself just says so much. And that's, like myself being I'm a big proponent of, cover art. And, if the cover doesn't draw you in, then you're not doing something right. And just the imagery on that cover immediately goes, open me up and check me out and see what this is all about. So
yeah.
Fantastic. So last we have me. So Scott, what is your thing? Well, thank you, Scott. My favorite game of 2022, I was on the fence, and I was going to go with one that I've read and have not played, which was Hyperborea, but I'm going to go with something different because I wanted to be something that I actually, not just ran or played, but experienced. And my favorite game that I had an absolute fantastic blast with this year was Matrons of Mystery by Sue Savage. For those of you who aren't aware of the game, the game is a rather simplified version of Brindlewood Bay. What Brindlewood Bay is a group of elderly women, i.e. in the vein of Jessica Fletcher and such, who are these women who are solving mysteries that deal with aspects of the Cthulhian mythos. If I'm wrong, Pookie, feel free to correct me, but I think I kind of gave the gist of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, ultimately, the Cthulhu mythos is kind of buried in the backstory. You have to get.
But what Sue did was she Anglophiled it. She took the game, and yes, you are still playing a group of elderly women out to solve mysteries, but you are old English matrons, either divorced or widowed, who get together in any cavalcade of groups, knitting groups, tea groups and whatnot, and things happen. And so it's up to you as these group of matrons to get involved in these odd mysteries, and you need to solve what they were. And so after receiving Sue's book in the near the beginning of the year, I ran it at Strategicon for a group of non-Anglophile Southern California Americans. And I went out on a limb thinking this is either going to just be the absolute worst, or it might be a blast. And it was 3 times the blast that I was hoping it would be. It's a game that's based off of PBTA, and I'm not a PBTA hater, nor am I an aficionado, but running it with Sue's version made it extremely easy, and it was shocking at how quickly, with just the tools that Sue provided within the game, how a variety of men and women at the table. I had about 7 people at the table. How quickly they all became these doting, nosy, extremely entertaining, dexterous women getting themselves in trouble as they solved the mystery that was going on at this hotel. And it was an absolute blast. And not saying that it's any better than Brindlewood Bay, because I know Brindlewood Bay is widely popular, but it is a different take, and the amount of fun that you have with it is going to be different than what you would have with Brindlewood Bay. So, but know that even though the theme itself is UK centric, as I stated, I'm very happy at how easily it just translated to people who don't even know a scone from a scone.
Or biscuit.
Right, or a biscuit. Yeah. So yeah, that's my favorite of 2022, just because, and I would go back to it again because of just what occurred, and it is designed, just in its simplicity, to be one of the perfect con games. I mean, I ran it with 7 people, got it well under 3 hours, and everyone had fun without having to either cut it off at the end or crank it up because we were running short on time. So it was a blast.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that. The other great thing is that it's got some really good scenarios in it. One of which is called Gardner's Question Crime, which is a fantastic pun if you're English, that made me giggle. And then it's got an actual scenario set at a role-playing convention, which is perfect for role players.
Yep.
And that's the one I have played, and it was so much fun.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it was, because that's the one I ran that you played in.
Yes.
Yeah. I've played that one too, with Sue running it at a convention, and it was ridiculous fun.
And it's all the other thing that's really fun. I'm going to mention it's also fun about that one is it's running into myself because I appear as an NPC in that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I've recognized you.
Oh no, it was definitely text messages going, have you seen Pookie in there yet? Oh no, where? Okay.
Oh
yes,
yeah. I remember.
Let's find him. Well, there you go. That was kind of a, an eclectic grouping of games. Really nothing, that was kind of mundane in there. No one said their favorite game of the year was, 5e generic adventure game. So,
oh, hold on, change my mind.
No, you can't.
All right.
Okay.
So we are going to move on to our most anticipated game of 2023. But first, we need to take a little break, and we will be right back. All right, we are back, and we are moving on to our most anticipated game for 2023. So let's just dive right in, and we'll go in the same order as last time. Kevin.
Hey, that's me.
What is your most anticipated game for 2023?
For those that don't know me, one of my all-time favorite games is King Arthur Pendragon, now rebranded just Pendragon. It is due out, a full version of the game and a starter kit for it are due out in 2023. So that is my most anticipated game. For several reasons. A, it's a nostalgic game for me. I played it a lot back in the 4th edition days, in the mid 90s, when I was in active duty military. The modern version, which we some of us, I think all of us now have in here in this episode, all have the quick start for it. I love the evolution of the rules that have the changes to the rules, I think, are really, really great, and make the game that much better. So I'm sure some listeners might fight me on that, and that's okay, because that's everybody's got opinions, and that's cool.
Sorry, I think those listeners will joust you. They won't.
Well,
fight
they might fight me on the battlefield too. So, this update to the rules. The 6th edition is Greg Stafford's ultimate edition of the game. David Larkin is the line editor for the series, and he has done a fantastic job taking Greg's notes and doing wonderful things with them to bring this new edition to market. So we've got the quick start out now. The starter set is in production, to the best of my knowledge. I believe it's at the printer and due out in early 2023. And then the core book is due out shortly thereafter. So I'm super stoked for it. I love Arthurian stuff, but Pendragon is just that game for me that will always scratch that itch. Hands down. Anything else can come out in 2023, but that'll be the one that I will just throw my money at, no matter what.
Yeah, I can understand that. Pendragon is I describe as almost the perfect role-playing game. It's an absolutely fantastic piece of design. It's wonderfully playable. Once you kind of get past the Holy Grail references, and is supported with a great campaign, the Pendragon campaign, which I'm really looking forward to Keith running for us.
Oh my God! now that is due to be redone, updated, and according to the interview that Scott and I did with David Larkin earlier this past year, in a 3-book slipcase set. I don't know that it'll be out in 2023. It might be 2024, but I believe there was going to be 5 or 6 books in total, covering all of the different periods in that cycle, in the Arthurian cycle. So yeah, that's massive. I don't know that I can run all that, but it's massive. So that's my pick.
Right. And here's to hoping that not just the starter set comes out, but shortly thereafter, hopefully in 2023, the core book follows. But that has not been announced, as far as I know.
No, it hasn't been overtly announced, but they have said, Chaosium has said that the starter kit is coming out in early 2023 with other core products to follow shortly thereafter. So I am making the assumption it's going to be the core book, and then there is they have like a GM pack that David referenced when we did our interview with him.
Right.
And was it the Grey Knight scenario book that he referenced that was going to come out as well?
Well, we definitely need to see about getting David back on again, once it's officially announced, or maybe once it, actually drops, because I'm sure there'll be a different, discourse regarding that versus, what he was only able to provide when we had him on last time. So, well, next up, hopefully before the cold medicine kicks in, we have Debbie. And so, Debbie, drag yourself forward, please, to the microphone, and let us know what your most anticipated game of 2023 is.
Okay, so for those that know me, it'll be no surprise that my most anticipated game for 2023 is a Savage Worlds product, because everybody knows I love me a bit of Savage Worlds. It's Pine Box Middle School, which is the little sister to East Texas University, which I have run and I love, and I've run it for you guys, and it's just utterly ridiculous. It's like Buffy the University Years, with lots of monsters and stuff. And Pine Box Middle School is obviously Buffy the first 3 seasons. So I now get to do Buffy the whole way through, which will be great for me. People may have guessed that I'm a bit of a Buffy fan. Not that I'm a one-trick pony or anything. So yeah. So yeah, that's coming out. I kickstarted it this year and went for the top PDF level because shipping from the States.
Yeah. All the little bells and whistles that come with all of the wonderful Savage Worlds games, even as expensive to ship here in the States.
Yeah, so but I think it'll be something that I'll be buying physical product when it's properly out retail, and I can't wait for that. It's going to be going to be great. So you get to play kind of like Kids on Bikes, I would imagine. Basically school kids fighting monsters and weirdly nonsense, which is my jam.
Yeah, that I to be perfectly honest, that's on my top 5 list of most anticipated, primarily also due to your excitement for it, your introduction, to the game for us. And I, 3 of us in this current discussion are relative Savage Worlds fans. So I won't name whom. But to be fair, I'm a lot more excited for that game also. Besides the new addition for Kids on Bikes. Kids on Bikes just doesn't do it for me, but for many reasons this one does.
And we won't mention the clothing that one of our characters was wearing when we were
No, we shall not.
University.
Yeah, I can't imagine that those will appear in Pine Box Middle School, because I think that would be weird.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely going to be on many people's lists, including my own. And I didn't back it either, but, once it comes out here in the States, would definitely look forward to getting some of the physical stuff, because that's part of the excitement of physically playing the Savage Worlds games, is all the wonderful things that they use to support their game. Yeah. So we have next up Pookie. Now, fair warning, just a bit of, a bit of information here. Know for a fact that that Pookie was actually able to just hopefully whittle it down to one game is something exceptional.
It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle.
I mean, his eye is twitching. He's got that vein on his forehead, but we definitely support him in this, and we'll see how it goes. So Pookie, what is your one anticipated game for 2023?
Choose one.
Yes.
Okay.
One.
Okay. So what I'm going to go with is Valley of Plenty 2nd edition.
Really?
Yes. Now I'm a big fan of RuneQuest and Glorantha, and I'm enjoying it. I've got into it over the last sort of 5 years or so on, and I'm running the game. And there's a lot of good material on the Johnstown Compendium. And one of the things that appeared in 2020 was Valley of Plenty, which was essentially a starter campaign where you played the young children of a clan who would go through and the whole idea was essentially that your clan would suffer a disaster, would be dissolved, the family would be scattered, and then you come back to reforming the clan in the future over the course of several parts. And Valley of Plenty was the first one where you were playing the young children leading up to the disastrous event. Unfortunately, it got pulled because there was a controversy surrounding it, but it's been announced that the authors are working on a 2nd edition, expanding it, updating it, taking account of changes and so on. And I'm looking forward to that coming back out again with the changes, and it being written for a new game system coming out, which is Quest Worlds, which is Chaosium's revision of the old Hero Quest rules. So it's more storytelling based. And what I liked about it in the original version was that the Hero Quest rules allowed you to scale the adventure to children just as easily as you could with adults. It really didn't make a lot of difference. There was no sort of a lot of adjustment involved, but the story was detailed and interesting, and you got to experience growing up and learning about the world of Glorantha as a child and then a young adult.
That's fantastic. I mean, I don't think any one of us are unfamiliar with the output that Miskatonic University has done over the year.
This is Johnstown Compendium.
I'm sorry, Johnstown. Sorry, my bad. Yeah.
Yep.
Johnstown Compendium. But, the quality of the work, the output, just the sheer amount of, just good material that comes from this, this community aspect of Chaosium. And this is not, any slight against what's been provided by Chaosium, but a lot of the material coming out from there is just as good, if not equally as superb. And these just community people that are doing this for the love of the game. And likewise the same thing goes for Miskatonic also, but I will say
mean, for example, there's a really good starter campaign already available on the Johnstown Compendium, which of course is 6 seasons in Sartar. That's freely available. That's for the primary role-playing game mechanics, RuneQuest role-playing and Garantha. But this is an alternative, a more storytelling-driven alternative.
Right. No, and the one thing is 6 seasons in Sartar does come with a free bottle of malt vinegar, but don't let that sway you in purchasing of
you can't even say it.
Well,
sorry,
I nearly ruined my laptop then by
there's an inside joke, everybody. There's an inside joke.
I just want to check, Scott. So that's one of the seasonings. What are the other 5 seasonings in Tartar?
That is a old family recipe, and much like Colonel Sanders, it's going with me to my grave. So no, I will not reveal the other seasonings in Tartar. Well, there you go. Again, we have. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
What is yours, Scott?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
you got to lay it on us too.
All right. So this is, a lot of these games are that I've mentioned are things that I'm looking forward to also. I mean, obviously Valley of Plenty was a surprise to me, but both Keith's and Debbie's are probably, not just my top 5, but within my top 3. But the one I'm going to throw out that I'm really interested in seeing is Shadow of the Weird Wizard by Schwab Entertainment, for a variety of reasons. First off, those of you who know Schwab and his work, he is he's a acquired taste for a lot of people. He's been around for a while. He's done some fantastic stuff. He's had his fingers in many things, from Warhammer to Dungeons and Dragons and so many other things that you don't realize until you see his name on something. But one thing he is, in my opinion, is he's definitely, an old school metalhead. And with that comes a bit of a personality that is reflected in many of his games, be it Punk Apocalyptic, be it Shadows of the Demon Lord, and some of the other things that he's done. And so it's not for everybody. So what he's decided to do is he's decided to bring forward a game that is kind of what he calls family-friendly version of Shadow of the Demon Lord, and that is Shadow of the Weird Wizard. It used to be Shadow of the Mad Wizard, but they've since changed it. I'm really interested in what he's going to do with that. I'm wondering if it sounds like it's going to be a different take. It's not just Shadow of the Demon Lord with the F word crossed out. It's a totally different take of the game. The rules are going to be fairly similar, but I'm really interested in seeing what his perception of family friendly is going to be when this comes out.
I think we all are.
I totally, envision that one episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns becomes good. And at the end of the day, when Lisa finds out what he's actually doing, she's like, even when you're trying to be good, you're still evil. You're even more evil. And so I'm this is a personal thing that I'm kind of really it's kind of more of a curiosity, I would say, more than an excitement. But, once it's announced, I'm definitely going to back it because, not just because of the curiosity, but Schwab puts out quality material. I absolutely love Punk Apocalyptic. It's one of my favorite, apocalyptic type settings. Shadow of the Demon Lord is a fantastic alternative to Dungeons and Dragons. And so with the current break with the whole 1D&D thing, and people are kind of like looking for new things, they may look at Shadow of the Demon Lord and go, oh, this is neat, but wait a minute. There's a game in here that causes explosive diarrhea. I don't know if I want to run that for my friends. Whereas Shadow of the Weird Wizard is going to be the same type of mechanics, so to speak, but, more of a, presentable format with, less, appendages between your legs falling off or explosions out your, rear end. That
all bags full of sex toys.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So, I mean, that aside, I mean, if any of these things that we're kind of, not really taking issue with, but referencing fall into your wheelhouse and you haven't heard of it, please go check out, Schwab's Punk Apocalyptic and Shadow of the Demon Lord. But if you're looking forward to a great alternative or potentially great alternative to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition or 1D&D, I would definitely keep an eye out for this one, because I have a feeling he's going to put forth a lot of effort, with it, all jokes aside. But still, I don't think he's going to be able to completely deny his particular signature aspects within the game. It may just kind of ride, the border with some certain decent options. So yeah, that's mine. Shadow of the Weird Wizard, Schwab Entertainment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see, because essentially, Shadow of the Demon Lord is Schwab's take upon Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And what I like about it, it's got a nice little simple system, fantastic character progression built in. It's actually got some great support material. There's a really good pirate campaign. Keith should play. Yeah,
no, it's fantastic. And
yeah, I just want a bag of sex toys on the deck.
No, that's punk apocalyptic. So yeah.
Damn, you just ruined all the fun.
Well, considering pirates use hooks, you may not want a bag of those.
No, probably not.
Fair.
And if you do, that's your OnlyFans podcast.
Woo!
Right.
That's a whole separate thing. You got to be part of our Patreon for that.
Right. So now, there you go. We have our most anticipated games of 2023, and as previously mentioned, again, a nice round eclectic list of things that we're all excited for. Definitely, looking that these will be things that we get to the table one way or another also. So we all are making secret promises that we're all going to have to run this at some point in time, hopefully when they come out next year. But I would like to thank both Debbie and Pookie for taking your time to come on here and participate in this. As always, we love having both of you on, and definitely look forward to having you on again. And Keith, anything else to add before we roll on out of here?
Where can people find you, Debbie?
People can find me at DragonGirl74 on Twitter, and I think I'm on Hive too, and at various Discords.
And Pookie, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I am Really Reviews, and on my blog is Reviews from Really.
Perfect. They're also, both of them are also on the Rolling Boxcars / Titterpigs Discord. They both hang out there with us and chat with us, so you can find them there as well.
And yeah, going to say thank you very much for inviting us on.
Yes, thank you.
You are very, very welcome. And just in closing, to our listeners, let us know what your most anticipated games of 2023 are, and likewise what your favorite game of 2022 was. Hop on the Discord, as Keith mentioned, drop us an email at titterpigspod@gmail.com, or if it's working again, hop on Anchor and send us a recorded message. We appreciate any and all input. So with that, everyone, have a wonderful day. Take care. And here's to a happy 2023 full of wonderful, wonderful games.